I wonder if it changes. So hello, hello, hello. We are live inside of a CMOs. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Petrullo. I'm very excited for you all to be here. We are going live in 5 places right now. So we've got LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I am just triple checking if Instagram is actually streaming because it's a new platform for us. So if you are on another channel, I know this is an event that we do with my team, as well as allowing everyone else to have a chance to be a fly on the wall as we go through some of the most important topics that we go through on a daily basis within Mongoose Media. So today's subject of what's inside a CMO's head, I am really fortunate to have the opportunity to explain this to you. I am a fractional CMO for several brands. I'm brought in on consulting for both enterprise and small businesses. And what I'm going to be discussing on today's webinar live, and hello, Sammy and Bay and Shake and everyone, happy Friday indeed. What we're going to be talking about today is what do I need to look at as a fractional CMO or a head of marketing to understand if what we're doing is actually working. Are the efforts that we're putting in moving the needle and helping us generate more of what we want, whether it's new customers, more revenue, more marketing efficiency, or better retention. Whatever that North Star is, there's different things that we need to have the conversation progress towards so that we're making sure that we stay on track. And in this time of AI, it's really easy for us to get distracted and to have like what I call SOS, shiny object syndrome. And it's fine. Explore these different tools, adapt new technologies, leverage emerging technologies for sure. However, as the head of marketing, as the CMO, and everything else that matters, we cannot lose focus from what we really need to do. So in today's live webinar, we do this every Friday at 3 p.m. We're going to be talking about reporting that matters. And I'm going to give you direct from my experience and what's been working, strong insight to help you be more efficient in your marketing. So without further ado, thanks to everyone who is participating in the live channels because you're able to join in on the chat. For those of you who are not on the live channels, that's super okay too. We do have the restream. You'll actually be able to access our notes. We have a selection of, we got like cheat sheets that we make available specifically on the restream. So if you're joining us there, amazing. I'm just hitting the go live button to make sure that this is working on Instagram. I think it is. Haha. Bear with me. We might not be live on Instagram. If that's the case, then that's the case. Could be. Well, I'm just checking in. Gulam, you're asking me about the nice background. Hello from San Francisco. I am in the amazing home of an incredibly talented group of co-founders, and we've been doing a lot of vibe coding this week. And so I can't take credit. It is an awesome background. I feel like I'm inside an episode of Alice in Wonderland. Just bear with me as I try this last moment. Connect streaming. Okay, I'm not quite sure. I give up on the Instagram going live. Here we are. Okay, I'm gonna put this here so I can go hands-free because I am not controlling this webinar. Heather, who's in the background, is. So I'm gonna be hands-free and I'm gonna be talking about our different things. So Heather, take it away. You'll be able to jump into it. In today's episode, we've got several things that we'll be covering specifically. A lot of it is going to be about reporting, and I'm just going to make this a little bigger for myself. Sorry. I was like, Heather's controlling the webinar. So I was like, you're controlling the slides, Heather. Is this making it so that people can see as well? Or you have to adjust the presentation? Oh, we don't need to make my face so big. It's the content that matters, not me. I just wanted to be able to make sure I could read it. The things that are going to be really important for us to talk about with marketing and like understanding, like framing, setting the frame of what matters when what we're reporting is who owns what. There's a lot of time where people will be like, I don't want to be responsible for this. I think it's someone else is going to do it. I think someone else is going to do it. When someone else is going to do it, it means that no one's actually getting it done. So we're going to briefly jump into like who owns what and the various different types of report that matter. Here, the 3 things that matter. I assume the 3 things that matter, Heather, in the pieces that you made, and that's okay. Heather's just telling me in this background. Oh, like Heather, side note, only message me if it's something I need to look at. Otherwise, it's going to distract me. Ha ha ha. Okay. So with the what you put here on the slide, the 3 things that matter, I assume that's going to be talking about the foundations, how you set up your campaigns, the creative, and the data that flows back into it, because that's a really quintessential part that I think a lot of heads of marketing neglect. They focus on the wrong things. They get distracted by all this reporting. AI sounds really cool, but we have to get back down to what's going to drive the needle, what's going to produce more revenue, that's going to help us move the bottom line. Okay, and then the other piece about the KPI framework, that's just going to make sure that we're setting a baseline. Do you know what KPIs matter? A lot of the time we think, oh, this is good, this is working. But the reality is have you already defined what's good? Because what could be good from your frame of mind might not be good. You might have really good numbers, but the truth of the matter is you're losing revenue. So we have to look at what are the KPIs that matter and making sure that we are optimizing towards it. As our role as head of marketing, whether you're a fractional CMO or you're the only marketer on the team, we have to be hyper cognizant of what's going on in the business so that we are moving forward with an agenda that works for the business owner who's ultimately paying us and for the various product lines that we're in charge of. Looking at the rest, those are the different reports. So we'll get really deep in different reports that I have in my company. They've worked well for me, they've worked well for our clients. And these are just, swipe files I almost wish you could just take and run with so that when you're trying to measure what matters, you're able to do it in a way that's easy to digest. It's important for your primary metrics, for the marketing metrics that will move your business, as well as the KPIs that are functional for other people on the team. Sammy is asking if we can make the slides bigger. Absolutely, because I have to zoom in. So I'm going to, Heather, see if we can do it this way. I'm taking over for a hot second. Is that better? I can at least see a little bit more. I wish it was like picture in picture. There we go. This should make it much better. Sammy, let me know if that's easier for you, because it's definitely easier for me reading. I'm like, zooming in and zooming out. Okay, jumping into, let's go a little bit deeper into some of the next things. So talking about the people that are behind this. So when we are talking about the different things of reporting, the lens that I'm looking at is like for at Mongoose Media, we have a troop. A troop is the one that's behind us. So you have a client success manager. That's always the person that's client facing in any project. That person is only going to be responsible for one of the reports. When you have an account manager, account executive, or a client success manager, one of the first things that you need to do, and if you're like writing down anything, is the client success manager is never responsible for any of the reporting. They can be responsible for one. If you go back one slide, there's 6 reports on that screen, which is a lot, but they all have a different purpose. There's the weekly CEO email, which on this one is number 5. It's the only thing I want the client success manager to own. If you go back to the next one, and the only thing that they have in ownership is the teams will often help them create the email. The client success manager is distilling it down to the piece that actually matters. So whoever is client facing should never be responsible or held accountable to the numbers and the performance or into creating the reports. They are responsible purely for presentation and being able to summarize that information. The growth specialist, so whether you're doing paid media, email marketing, content creation, whatever is the service that you're holding your vendors, your team, and anyone accountable to, we use the term growth specialist because whether they're designing content, they're fulfilling lifecycle emails, they're developing your CRM, they're running TikTok ads or Google ads or whatever. We don't have media buyers. We don't have email marketers. We have growth specialists that are dedicated to a specific field, because that's just like in the age of AI and how much we've evolved and enabled our team and our process to get better. If you're solely focused on just being just an email marketer or just a Facebook ads marketer, you're missing the entire point. So the growth specialist is going to be responsible for a lot of the reporting. And so you'll have someone, yeah, exactly. Like I was just saying in the chat, like there are no such thing as media buyers anymore. That's not something that we work with. Media buyers can be in that growth specialist role, presuming that they've evolved to what that's supposed to be about. By the way, Heather, can you please take over comments so that you can show them, so that you can highlight them? Just as, please. So the pieces for the growth specialist and a lot of our things is they're handling the account at large. They're responsible for conducting all of the, sounds more encompassing. You're right, Irish. They're the growth specialist for the reporting that they're doing. They're like the conductor of everything, making sure that if the performance is working or not. And they have to look at like holistically. If you're conducting a whole orchestra, do my sounds align together? Am I making beautiful music, or is it actually just a cacophonic mess that no one wants to listen to? That's why a lot of the reporting will fall on the growth specialist. Never the account manager, almost always the growth specialist. So whoever is dedicated to that specific field. The other person that's behind a lot of the reporting, so the lens, like I'm doing this just like set the frame so that you understand the things that I'm asking people when they're reporting to us, is that the creative specialist is the individual that's going to be specifically holding accountable is the creative working. When we talked about the three things earlier of what makes something work, the three foundations is going to be like, what is set up? Like, is your campaign architecture set up correctly? Is everything just working the way it should be? Foundationally, are you set up for success? 2 is the data working for you. Data is the piece that the Andromeda performance optimization engine is doing to make sure that your ads are generating the revenue it's supposed to. But then that third piece is the creative working. If you're in an interruptive marketing platform like Facebook, like TikTok, if the ads are not interrupting, if you're not generating the attention your media is supposed to be doing, that piece is failing. That's where the creative specialist or whatever you have in your system has to hold itself accountable. Last but not least, at least for ours, we have the growth systems architect who's really responsible for what happens after the click. Is everything coming along together? Heather, if you can just progress right along. I think there might be some extra things that matter. Okay, we've already talked about campaign structure, data quality. Can you go to one of the slides that we had talked about earlier? I was like, so because she's in controlling it, it's like improv for improvement, but I just want to make sure that we're getting to, okay, I'll just keep going in the order you have. Something that I will talk about a lot is before you spend $1, it has to be super dialed in on the data and the destination. Like otherwise you're just wasting your money. And some of the things that like, I think this is like the silent killer that a lot of CMOs aren't working well with is that they're not talking about these specific things. I'm happy to get into this in a bit more detail later, but Heather, specifically what I want you to get to is when we're talking about the reporting that matters, I want to talk about the different type of reports and get directly into the 6 reports that we have, please. Okay, perfect. So report number 1, where we have this scorecard. This is one of the most effective reports I think anyone should ever do, especially if you're the CMO, whether you're the head of a different department. I have a weekly scorecard, and this is manual. And it's manual for a reason. Sorry, I was like, getting distracted. Can you just go back? Sorry, Heather. Yeah, I just stay here for me. Thanks. So with our performance scorecard that goes out every week, this is where your growth specialist, the person, remember, who's in charge of most of the reporting on your account. I hate when brands or vendors come to me and they live in an ecosystem where all they're doing is having dashboards. I don't want a dashboard. I don't need another dashboard. I know that AI can tell me some information. I want to know that you're doing something with that data. If you're not doing anything with the data, then what's the point? What I'm asking for is for you to have the team that's accountable for the performance to every single week type in the numbers based off of whatever KPIs you're measuring. What's your CPM? What's your reach? What's your subject line open rate? What is your click-through rate? What are the things that are important for them to measure? Yes, you can have it in dashboards. And I know this sounds antiquated and archaic. I still demand that they do it every week. Why? Because I want them to feel it when they write the number. Click-through rate is less than 1%. When they're typing it and they can see to the left what our benchmarks are, I want them to physically go through the psychology of writing out that they didn't hit their numbers. I want them to check that if they're not doing the pieces that they want to do, that they're going to become prepared to discuss something. The manually entered piece to it is a psychological component that I think a lot of people are underestimating, and we need to make sure that we're doing more of this. So with our manual reporting, I don't know what other slides you have. feather. I'm like, okay, you showed this, you can go to another one. Here we go, thank you. In our manual reporting, you are going to decide the benchmarks that matter. And like, here are some of the ones that we do. And it depends on what type of marketing channel you're looking to optimize, right? If you are spending money on paid ads, CPM is the way that we measure everything. CPM stands for cost per 1,000 impressions, cost per mila. Mila is Latin. Why we go CPM, we go cost per mila, and it's English and Latin combined. That's funny. I just realized it's a bilingual KPI. Regardless, it's the way that we keep score. So whether you're spending $30 a CPM on Meta, $400 a CPM on Google, depending on your category, 7 cents a CPM on Pornhub, this is an important measurement so that you can understand, is there something fluctuating? Meta is my place that I love to talk about. So I'm going to use that for most of our references. Meta's CPM have grown like almost 30% year over year. Mark Zuckerberg does his annual reports, and then every quarter, because it's a publicly owned company, they have their like discussions where they're sharing out all the pieces. It is well documented that CPMs are rising. Why? Because you have more competition. People that were using Meta ads early 2015, there's not a lot of competition. So you're paying like $4 a CPM, if even. So when you're looking at the cost that you're spending and you want to understand like incremental ROAS, if I spend $100 on Meta for $30 CPM, right? I spend $100, I have a $30 CPM. That means $30 gets me in front of 1,000 eyeballs at $100, right? I'm looking at what, 3,200, because 1,000 eyeballs is $30. So looking at 3,200 eyeballs, they're going to see something. Versus if I take that same $100 and I spend it on Snapchat, or maybe I'm paying $10 a CPM and I'm able to get that much more visibility. When we think about a metric that really matters, which is your incremental ROAS, your incremental ROAS is, if I were to take this $10,000 or this $100 and put it somewhere, which avenue is going to raise the greatest amount of incremental lift to my bottom line? So in our manual report that we do every week, we need to have well-defined benchmarks and clear KPIs. So every KPI that we're measuring has to have a benchmark. Otherwise, you don't know what good is. One of the biggest things I hate is like, when you're like, oh, well, look at the dashboard, the numbers look good. And it's look good compared to what? If you don't know your numbers, you have no numbers to know. And you have to know your numbers and how they stack against your how they stack against your goals. So there's industry standards. So like what we have here, your hook rate should be at least 20%. We like 30%, but it has to be at least 20%. If you can't get at least 20%, that's 1 in 5 people to consume at least 3 seconds of your ad. You lost your chance. It was a total wasted opportunity. The whole purpose of marketing is what? We're renting someone's attention so that we can earn their trust. If in that time that you rented their attention and you didn't even get it for 3 seconds, you just wasted spending money for someone that was never going to pay attention to you. So it's a really uncomfortable place to be. Like, you don't want to spend money and not get it. So when we're renting someone's attention and earning their trust, it's really important that we are intentional in everything that we're doing with our marketing. That's why this report we can look at on a week over week basis. Now, I recommend that, like, I run a Sunday through Saturday operation. I know a lot of people will do Monday through Sunday, whatever it is, choose what works best for you. I like doing Sunday through Saturday because I follow the week in Google Calendar. So we're in week 21 right now. But you need to make sure that you do this every 7 days, but do not enter the numbers till 24 to 48 hours after the last day, because there's often times that information needs to settle. So if you're doing a Sunday through Saturday, you shouldn't pull those numbers until Monday. If you are doing a Monday through Sunday, you shouldn't pull those numbers till at least Tuesday. Ideally, it's Wednesday, actually, because then you have that full 48 hours. So you just want to be hyper cognizant of when you're pulling the data, because otherwise you'll have data that's incomplete. So there's always a 24 to 48 hours of settling. Other things that matter, like this is a paid performance, like your CMO rate, that's the first 125 characters. You always want to have 1.05%. Whatever the KPIs that you're measuring, make sure you know industry, and then if possible, vertical stuff. If you're working with an agency, you can ask them, or if you're using a tool like Claude, you can ask it, right? You want to know what the industry KPIs are and see if there's an exception to your category. Because if you are in real estate, for example, you might have a different CPM basis than someone who is selling a low ticket e-commerce good. So these are just giving some like industry standard, like platform specific, but you can get further refined with the benchmarks that you're doing. But your hook rate, this should really actually say 25%. We push for 30. My bare minimum is 20%. And we'll get more into like why that matters for the creative strategist when we talk about the data studio. But your hook rate, when we're measuring if the ad itself is effective, this is a really, really important one. I wouldn't necessarily say that your hook and hold rate are warranted inside of your weekly PPC or your performance marketing one, unless you're providing the content creation as a service. So Heather, just like, because this is always improv for improvement. Sorry, can you go back to that slide, please? Just in the future, let's make sure that we have a slide that's saying like, here's benchmarks and how they matter to the different services. Because some of these are relative to if you're providing content creation, some are relative if you're doing paid media, others could be relative if you're doing email. I don't see the email marketing race one, but let's just, in the future, let's make sure that we are giving some KPIs that make sense for the performance marketing weekly report so that it's more specific versus just throwing a few that are not intersecting together. So let's jump on past the one that's weekly. Again, make sure it's done manually. The second one that I really like is Data Studio, formerly Looker Studio. I love creating Data Studio reports, but this is something that I'm not actually going to do. If you're the fractional CMO, if you're head of marketing, and you're building out reports, you are not using your time efficiently. Everyone should have some sort of BI, business insights type of person who's going to be able to develop these reports for you. In your Data Studio, there's like 1,000 things. I do not want you to overwhelm yourself with data, but if you're running performance media, or if you're delivering content creation, the hook rate, the hold rate that we were just talking about, you have to start evaluating on a per creative basis. So I'm going to take a pause of this type of thing. Like, so inside like the CMOs, like language, like one of the things that really matters to me that I think people neglect. Old media buying practices, which don't exist anymore because we don't have media buyers, is where I'm going to film a unit. I'm going to do a commercial. Let's say I'm in this room in San Francisco and I'm going to talk to you guys about why reporting from real humans is just as important from reporting from AI in 2026. And I'm going to be talking about it here. Say that's the subject matter. If I film that unit and then I have that ad, Lauren in Alice in Wonderland room, and then I take that intro and splice it and have a variation with a different hook, splice it to a variation with a different hook. What ends up happening is you're creating like triplets. Meta doesn't want you to have variations. You might think, oh, it's A/B testing because I have like, here's version 1, me in a black shirt with a pink microphone, where I start with the way you're doing advertising is wrong. Then I have version B, same black shirt, same pink microphone, but my opening might be like, this is the reason why your bottom line sucks. So I have a different hook. Everything else after that hook is the same. Those count. It's like A/B testing because I just want to see the first hook against the second hook. That's the bibbidi-boppity bullshit kind of thing that Meta and other ad platforms don't want you to do anymore. And so when you're looking at really pushing performance, remember the 3 things that matter. Are your campaigns set up correctly? Is your data being delivered correctly? Do you have a integrity and quality in your data? And then more importantly, is your creative driving enough attention to inspire people to get to the next step? Your ad is responsible for capturing attention and inspiring action. Your ad is not responsible for the sale. It helps with the sale, but your ad first and foremost has to get attention and then ideally inspire action. So what I have is be an AF tester. If A and B is me in the same black shirt with a pink microphone, and all I change in the 2 15-second videos is my opening hook, that's an A/B test, fine. But in Metas, they look the same. They're 50 shades of gray. What I want you to be is an AF tester. Like, you have to test it. Like, be testing so much. You're like, oh, of course I test. I do advert testing. AF. I chose F because the 6th letter in the alphabet is F, right? If we divide the 26 characters in the English alphabet, it's between 6 and 7. If you don't have at least a 25% difference in your creative, it looks the same. So there is no A/B testing when it comes to creative. I call it at least AF testing, because you need to get to whatever that fifth one. So what a better example of that type of testing is me, black shirt, pink microphone, telling you about, let's see, what else goes on? I got water. Let's say I'm making an ad about this Proud Source spring water, naturally occurring minerals and electrolytes. So I'm in this environment and I'm using an ad where I'm talking about living so close to water. The last thing I want is glass. It's going to harm humans and animals in case it breaks, or plastic, which is going to contribute to more consumption of microplastics than anything else. I love drinking my Proud Source spring water from a can while at the office because, one, if I spill and break, it's not going to shatter on the floor. I'm not adding microplastics to my body, and it's really satisfying to hear the click as soon as I opened it up. And I definitely splashed. I don't know how I splashed all over myself, but whatever. No one else is in the splash zone. So let's say that's the example, and I'm doing it from the room, and I'm talking about what's like remote working. An F type of ad is maybe it's not even me. Maybe it's actually like this ad that's talking about the anatomy of what goes into this brand. So it's like recycled aluminum. Maybe it's injected with additional minerals so that you have like fluoride and vitamin D. I don't know. What do people, oh, here. It has naturally occurring minerals and electrolytes. So it's filled with calcium, magnesium, potassium. Like we just have an ad that's like the bottle is just shaking back and forth, and it's talking about the anatomy of what went into this product. An ad about someone telling you why they chose this can of water versus another ad telling you about the benefits and features specifically in this can are so different. That's why I'm looking at an A and an F test. And when we're using the reports with inside of Data Studio, what we're going to be doing is evaluating the creatives themselves. It's fun because you get to do marketing the way like Mad Men style used to do it, where you're like coming up with campaigns. And a campaign by itself can be, what's the anatomy of this can? Then, and only then, if that ad proves itself to work, I will make iterations. So then maybe we'll do like the anatomy of this can, or then maybe we do anatomy of another product, or we change out what those features. I'm glad Heather's thinking that there's like ASMR. That was my goal. I tried to be intentional about it. So yay, hopefully it came through well. When we're doing what people do now, which is archaic, and it makes no sense. No, it does make sense. It's laziness. When you're doing, here's the video, and I changed the hook. So A, B test, and then C test. So A, B, and C test, because it's the same video, just a different hook. It's laziness of not doing another shoot and not coming up with a net new idea. I get why you want to do it, and I'm super okay with you doing it later. I just do not recommend that you make the assumption that your creative is good to begin with. Because when you're like, okay, here, I love this creative. Lauren's going to sit at a desk in a funky room. Cheers. Like you have this type of ad where you're interactive, and to assume that it's going to be good. And it's going to be so good, we're just going to see which one's better. Hook 1, hook 2, hook 3 is a bias that I believe needs to stop being carried over. I am not looking for A, B, and C versions. I want A and I want F at least. Maybe you get all the way to P. I want net new concepts, and that allows us to, one, meet the minimum standards of being at least 25% different, but two, allow us to test more rapidly at scale. With Gemini, with Chat, with Claude, you can come up with 10 different ad concepts in under 30 seconds. Using a tool like Nano Banana or other, like we use FreePick, I believe, and like a whole host of other AI tools, you can create the ads within 30 seconds to 3 minutes, depending on the time of day and whatever your usage allowance is. We don't have the excuse anymore to say, oh, that takes too many resources. You can create net new concepts relatively fast, and then you can start testing various of ads. Much better. And that's where I like looking at a Data Studio solution, because I can see the ads side by side so that I can start understanding, did this concept resonate well for my audience? Do I have before the click metrics such as hook rate, hold rate, see more rate, click-through rate, sentiment rate that are telling me drinking this water, regardless of the hook? Like, forget that, like regardless of the verbatim hook, forgive me, like that's changing from ABC. Is this type of content good or not? And then you make another one, because as we talk about a lot in our creative diversification webinar, if you make 50 Shades of Grey, you're going to have a franchise that's just a straight ripoff of Twilight. Don't get me wrong, I love 50 Shades of Grey, but it is written as fanfic for Twilight. So we can't keep thinking that I am going to make more units, or I'm going to turn one thing and be like, I'm going to maximize everything I can get from this one shoot, right? Or this one video, which you're filming with your phone. We are capable of filming another thing with a phone. Change outfits, change environments, but more importantly, change the content subject matter. And when we're able to look at a data studio report, I don't know, Heather, if you have an example of our Mongoose Media one to show it, but I want to be able to visually instantly know what we do from Mongoose Media. We have a Frankenstein ad. We have a graveyard ad. We have a bingo ad. We have a stream binging ad. I want to look at an ad and know that it's different. The same as when I'm going to Netflix and I can see each cover of a video is different. So when you're responsible and holding accountability to performance, get out of the way of doing this, like, really, like, I mean, Heather says best, it's like this shit thinking where it's like, I'm going to do everything I can to make the most possible. We are not trying to maximize efficiency. We are trying to maximize effectiveness. And when you say, I'm going to make all these different variations, A, B, and C, not even getting to at least F, you're making assumptions that this is automatically a good idea. You're just trying to figure out which opening hook is even better. We have decision fatigue as humans. Ah, perfect. Thanks so much, Heather, for sharing that. Can you click on, sorry, can you go to Facebook ads performance? And then this is the one I'm looking at. So when it loads, you can see here, look at that. There's a golden ticket. There's brain in a jar. There's graveyard. Now for our naming convention, so this is like literally the data studio I'm talking about. What our naming convention is, you can see CR02 video, CR02 image. And then the second bracket is a concept. So concept, I have golden ticket, brain, graveyard, recipe. Keep going to the right. What else do we have? VIP velvet rope. What else do we have? Okay, bingo. Then we have dead mouse. Then we have leaky pipeline. Perfect. So you can stop here on that. You can see that there's all those different things. When we see CR10, CR02, that's complete registration, what we're optimizing for, and ad number X. Then we have image and videos and carousels and all those different things. So that's our naming convention. But that second bracket is talking about the net new concept. And so we read, was it leaky pipeline, recipe, brain, dead mouse? I'm already looking at 4 different ones. You'll sometimes see, can you go to the left? I think there was 2 in the same one. Scroll a little to the left. I want to see, yes, please, here, perfect. See how we have LG03 vid, the VIP velvet rope, and yes, please. Those 2 are the exact same ad. Now bear with me. This is not an ABC test in the creative side. It's actually an A/B test in the ad text. So you can see, oh, wait, this is interesting. How is that happening that we have 2 of the same ads? Okay, cool. These are like live, like, hey team, like, let's look and see why this VIP rope is showing up twice, unless it's like a different date. No, they published at the same time. Okay, so in theory, what we should be looking at, and that could be a thing the data studio is off, the copy would change, which is why there are 2 different ads. It's really interesting that this is showing the same one and we have different click-through rates. Oh, no, Sammy, you're guessing that one is a carousel, but I'm looking at the ad. It says LG03 vid, LG03 vid. So that should be the same individual ad. We'll just double check on them. So I just put it in the ClickUp task for us to check. For the most part, I want to be able to visually look and see how different my ads are doing. Now, let's say the hit ROI bingo is doing really, really well. Is there another hit ROI bingo? I want to see if I can see, keeps going to the right. Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Click on bingo only. That's fine. Because I want to show you where the copy would be different. So, so here, what happens, we have the 2 different ones here, but that's CR carousel and video and image. So these are 3 different placements. No, you can leave it here. Sorry, no, leave it. Thanks so much. So you can see 4, 5, and 6. Those are 3 different ads, but they're using different inventory. So that's just like a unique thing, like image, video, and carousel inventory is delivering differently, but it's still the bingo concept. This is where we're like almost doing ABC testing, cheating way, but it's taking the same concept and we're maximizing. You can be like, hey, like this is the exception I would make to it, because you're just hitting a different deliverable mechanisms. So if you're going to do a unit, like something that you're filming, just have it different size, right? You're sizing it for 9x16, 1x1, 4x5, horizontal, maybe depending on where you're running it. You can go ahead and take out of just bingo and let's scroll all the way to the left. I just want to see all of the ads. Perfect, thanks so much. Making a report like this and being able to measure and visibly seeing how different these types of creative are is incredibly important. And this is what we want to start doing. And so we've talked about 2 reports so far. We talked about the manual one and then this Looker Studio, now Data Studio. If you are the head of marketing and you're trying to understand if your stuff is working, remember 3 things that matter: how your stuff is set up, how is the data integrity and its quality, and then how is your creative performing? This is the type of thing. This is when dashboards come really well, because then you can look and see what's your hook rate, what's your hold rate, what's your CMO rate. That stuff is a little bit further down. If you want to just scroll, if anyone wants to recreate this, you can. If you're inside of marketing rehab, I'll just give you access to this so that we can clone and make you your own. It's just a benefit if you come to our call every Monday at 11. But here, if you want to click, this is some of our before the click stuff. So you can see hook rate, hold rate, click-through rate, link clicks, costs. Like I don't have any problem being transparent. Like this type of transparency is what we do on our marketing rep calls anyways. So let's jump back out of this and go to our 3rd report. So if you're looking at what's working as a CMO, manual reporting is key for the performance growth specialist. They are responsible for it. And inside of that manual reporting, just 2 things. Make sure you have them, not just type in the quantitative numbers, but I need you to add qualitative ones too. What worked this week? What are we working on for next week? You need that person on a weekly basis to tell me, based off of the numbers I just mentioned, what's working. And then what we're working on this week is essentially saying, which lever am I going to pull that's going to drive the next step? Okay, Sheikh is asking a good question of how do you make a data strategy? That's a good point. Really, really good point. So jumping on this question really quickly for you is the data strategy has to start with 1, do you have any data coming back through? That's where you start. Step 1, do you have any data coming back through? It's a true or false binary number. It's any data, not all data, any data. Great. Let's assume you have some data. Great, you have some data. Now the next thing I need to understand is what is the integrity of that data? So once I check what's the integrity of that data, sorry, I'm just going to charge my computer because I thought I was plugged in. Wrong one. When I'm looking at the integrity of the data, what's my event match quality score? Do I have all the data going through? Are my connectors still valid? A lot of times you can have connections that allow you to import that data and then they expire. So step 1 is, do you have any data? Step 2, what's the quality of my data? And then step 3, what is the data that I have that I can leverage? So when I say what I leverage, your CRM, your ads, your Google Search Console, Google Analytics, what are all the different sources? So I can look at it's like opening a kitchen and you're opening a cabinet, you're like, what are all the ingredients that I have available to me? To which then I can build a strategy. So when I say I have available to me is like I can access and connect, because sometimes they're going to be like when you're working with a lot of brands, maybe you don't have access to the WordPress website or you don't have access to the CRM site. So that might be blocked stuff. So in that strategy, when you're doing inventory of what you have available to you, you first then choose based off of what I have, how can I leverage it to be the most effective? And then we are going to do that in the most effective and make sure that we have like layers that go into it. So am I getting the most effective? Do I have to go back to the beginning? Do I have clean data that's coming through? So deduplication. Do I have quality data coming back through such that I'll use the Meta Pixel, for example. If you're using a data set from Meta and you're using page view on every website, Meta's looking at every single page view is a signal that someone visited that page. But there are 17 standard events that can give stronger signal strength to the quality of that buyer. most people using standard events are only using purchase, lead, page view. Most aren't even using view content. View content is an event you put on every page that's relevant to you. Like, what is a page that really matters to your business? If you haven't done an audit, and you can do this with AI, there's no excuse. If you don't do an audit, and if you don't know as the head of marketing which pages matter to you, then neither does Meta. You use view content as an additional set. So you have your base pixel on everything, and then you add view content additionally to say, Meta, yep, someone was here and they got view content, because you're saying, Meta, this is a page that's important to me. Other things are like, you have a search feature on your website. Someone who is searching for something on your website is in a stronger consideration phase than someone who's a page view who's just becoming aware of your website. Similarly, if you are a local business and you have locations and you install the find location standard event on the pages that are relevant to finding location pages, or like a location near me, if you choose not to incorporate that data, you're not sending quality data. So the data strategy starts with, first and foremost, like, is there any data that exists? How clean is that data? And then it's the quality of it. So we have layers that will go to this. And you know what, Chick, like what we can do for sure is add a future one. And if anyone else wants it, like we'll make this internally for Marketing Rehab. And then if we get enough people that like leave a comment on YouTube or somewhere, I'll make it publicly available. We'll post it on my LinkedIn. But I can do like step 1, step 2, step 3 of like start here. And then we can say like, once we've established your page view is not being duplicated, then we've got your lead, purchase, and your basic ones. Then we can elevate, here's the next pieces. And then it can keep going to advancements, which depending on your marketing strategy can make you the most cost-effective marketing person on your team. Without proper data, Meta's going to be guessing. And when they guess, you pay. Unless you're spending like $1 million a month at least, their guessing is just stronger because it's bankrolled. Data improves data. And if you're not providing the data with what you have, Meta's going to build up the data with what you spend. Hopefully that helps. And if it doesn't, Chick, like, don't worry, just like Slack me. And then we will bring it up on Marketing Rehab on Monday. So just make sure you join that call. Third report, changelog. This is something that's really important. We also call it the CYA report, which stands for Cover Your Apple. There's got to be a better word for it. Look at this. Changelog is your CYA report. It's really important that depending on the different positions, the way you need to hold your team accountable, because it's not just performance, it's production, is what have they done in the business that you can keep track of. So if it's like, if the systems architect, for example, and they're inside of your CRM and they're managing automations, on this date, I changed this. Oh, good point, Irish. There is no Marketing Rehab on Monday, the 25th, as that's a US federal holiday. But the following one, oh my gosh, Kate, is that you? I'd be like, oh, I hope that I can't say well. But in that CYA report, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are marking what changed. And this is one of the things I think a lot of marketers neglect, because they're just go, 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 go. But if we don't review it, and I'll show the postmortem next, if you are just like, hey, this is everything that's going on, and you don't do a change log, you're not able to go back and figure out what has moved the needle. We're going to be changing a lot of things. We don't move at the pace of, I'm going to do this test this week. I'll wait 6 weeks and then I'll do another test. No, wait, we've got a lot of things that we need to do. And oh, it is Kate. Hello. I'm very excited to have you here. So when you have a change log, like it's so imperative, because you're going to make mistakes. And then we can look inside of analytics and understand, if you have a buying cycle that's 6 weeks, and then 6 weeks later, we're seeing a dip in our revenue, we need to look at what did we change 6 weeks ago. Yes, look at what did we change today to make sure that there's nothing that like radically changed that. But if you have a longer buying cycle, we need to know what were those changes. Because also in that CYA report, this is something that we always have to make sure that we're doing. When you have that change log and someone asks you, you're like, here, look, I did the work. With AI and stuff, it's really easy that brands and creators will think, You just put your stuff on autopilot. And for those of you that do, okay, that's awesome. Like if you're doing it autopilot with agentic marketing, heard. But when you're doing it on autopilot and you're charging a client for continued success, if that works for you, great. It doesn't work for me if I'm the CMO because I'm holding vendors and my team accountable. So that's what this CYA one is. The client success manager will have that be available to them as a reference too when someone is asking, hey, what were the old meta tags? Hey, what was the automation emails before? So this is just like a documentation piece that if you are in charge and overseeing a lot of stuff, this production report can make a world of difference when the performance isn't hitting as expected. Because if you don't have this type of change log, when you're trying to make strategic decisions, you can't improve what doesn't get measured. But we're not only measuring the KPIs, we're measuring the production cycles that influence KPIs. I hope that's making sense. We can jump to the next report. Go back to that one because that was a good slide of like, did it work or not? The CYA report, like when you're doing like what can make you even better is in that change log. If you in tandem with the postmortems, you can look back at the change logs and then like Tinder, you can swipe right or swipe left, and then you can understand, did this actually move the needle? Was this something that was effective? And then deploy it across other clients. If it didn't, pivot to do something else. We're just not going to be in a set it and forget it. So changelog, I was just talking about with a testing queue is also really great because in that changelog and you have a testing queue, each month you should be able to tell someone what I want to test this month is the landing page. Right now our conversion rate 17%. I want to see what can I do to push that to be 21%. So then you have in the month of May, we are going to do what can we do to make this specific page move from 17% to 21%. So the growth systems architect is going to have that in the testing queue. And then with the change log, be like, well, okay, cool. I changed the headline. And then I checked with 2 days worth of data. My conversion rate went from 17 to 18%. Okay, great. But that's not enough. I'm going to change this. Oh, I went from 18% down to 16%. Change that back. And that's where you'll be able to have a lot more understanding of what's progressing because this is advert testing. There's no guarantee. We're constantly testing. Heather, what you said is just put together the postmortem change log and a great pairing, 100%. Like these 6, I know it sounds like a lot of reporting, but if you're the head of marketing, like you are not responsible for all this, but you're accountable to it all. So these are the reports that I think help you understand what's really going on in the state of union of your account. Let's go ahead and jump to, I think postmortem's next. Let's see. Oh no, daily pulse. Okay, postmortem's coming. Daily pulse. This is something where automations make a lot of sense. Whether you're a brand or the head of marketing or the head of a department, you can set up an automation, whether you're using Slack or Teams, whatever that type of channel is. You need to have a daily pulse of your highest KPIs. How many leads did you get? How much revenue did you did yesterday? Having those numbers come to you. I use Slack. That's where most of our conversations happen every single day, 12:01 a.m. So it can recount all of yesterday. I need to know, how did our numbers do? If you don't know your numbers, you have no numbers to know. You need to have a daily check. For some people, they're like, I want to know how much revenue I made, or they check their bank accounts every single day. What you want to know is, you can see it, you don't have to much do with it, but it's really important. And we use Make for this, that you connect and say, great, here's how many subscribers, here's how many booked calls, here's how many sales that you did. So you can just see it every single day. Yeah, of course you can access through Shopify. Of course you can do all that stuff. But if you don't get that like daily pulse check, so that first thing you can come on like, okay, great, 17 new signups, 14 new signups. It's a trend line where if you're like 45 new signups, like what did we launch yesterday? It allows you, odd exceptions on both ends of the spectrum, to engage in a proper dialogue. What we've got here is the automated messages. We do it as client channels. So for us at Mongoose Media, if you have a team that says we'll build a comms channel, an approvals channel, and then a subscriber daily update channel, so that they can also see, like if you're managing this for someone else, you, the head of marketing, and the client or your boss needs to know daily basis, what was the pulse of yesterday's success? And then if you have like the tell here where it says a 0 means something broke, yeah, it also just makes sure that these are one of the earliest things that will tell you if one of your connections is down. Let's go ahead and get next to okay. This is the single report that your client success manager will make. The last one, that daily pulse, that's just like your growth strategist or whoever has your project manager. Like this is something that you set up once, and it's one of those set it and forget it's, but every day it's in your face to remind you what was success like yesterday. This weekly CEO email, this is one of the best reports that is the hardest to do. So the client success manager, who's not responsible for any of the production, is going to create an email that should go to the people in charge. You might be working with the directors. You might be working with the managers. You might be working with foreign VAs, regardless of whoever it is. You could be in the day-to-day if you're not the head of CMO. But what you need is either for you or for the CEO or for the owner of the business, a single email every single week, which we say has to be read in a maximum of 4 minutes. The reason this is the only report that the client success manager does is because they are not responsible for anything other than collating the information from the other reports. So it's like if you are the owner of a business who's investing, let's say, $200,000 a week in marketing initiatives, I want to know in 4 minutes or less every single week, what's my pulse? So we have 4 things that matter in that email. Hey, quick overview, what was done? This is to be read in 4 minutes or less total. I don't want a laundry list. I don't want you to tell me everything that's in the change log. I don't want you to say, we changed this, we changed this, we changed this. I want like a summary, like a log line to a movie. What was done? Improvements were made to the landing pages. 27 new ads were launched, and our lead cost went down by 10%. That's what I'm looking at. What was done? You can give production completed tasks, but it's got to be rolled up. You can say, like, for example, I'm going to say 217 meta index changes were done to the website. Or if it's like you had press releases, you had blogs that were published, you had schema that was implemented, all that stuff. If you don't have enough in the what worked, what didn't, you can add more details. But often what was done, if you have a long list of like SEO examples, you can just say massive improvements were done from SEO, including schema markup, blog publishing, and press releases. I don't need to have the details here. I just need to know and prove that stuff was taken action on. And what's really, really good is inside of the done, we also talk about performance. What was done? A 10% lift in revenue was done last week. Or we have like an 18% drop in revenue, but we also acquired 6,000% more leads. That's what you're doing, like your quick log line. What happened last week in a sentence or two? Another thing that's like really good, so the second part of the email is what worked. This is where you get to be a bit more details and lead into the last one of what we're doing next. So what worked? The broad audiences that we implemented helped us lead to a 600% reduction in cost per acquisition. That worked. What worked? The 3 new concepts that we launched had really strong sentiment rates, which gave us an average of 25% hook rates. So what was done is like at a high level, and then what worked, you can get even more specific, because then they're going to be like, I know you're paying attention to this. This is what I'm looking for when I'm reading it. What worked, and are you just walking away, or are you taking those learnings so that we can apply it next week? But learnings aren't always positive. We actually end up learning a lot more from what didn't work. And so what didn't work is new creatives that were launched couldn't generate enough hook rates and have been largely ignored. What didn't work? The Metapixel installs broke. So a lot of data was lost. This is again in that CYA piece where you need to, with the changelog, you need to signal if something is broken and preventing you from having the numbers you want it to. People don't get mad if something broke. People get mad if it gets ignored. Calling it out, signaling it, and then being clear on the last piece of what we're doing next. So if what didn't work, pixel installations through this WordPress plugin didn't eliminating this WordPress plugin did not remove the duplicate page views firing. It didn't work. What we're going to do next is do a full Google Tag Manager audit to see if we can figure out what other underlying resource is causing us to have wording errors, and metapixel interruptions. People, I mean, in a perfect world, then you'd also say what we're doing next and it'll be done by, but that's not even the most important part. The CEO, the boss, or the leadership team just need to know what was done, what worked, what didn't work, and what we're going to do next. That email is one of the best things you can do. The client success manager is going to collate all that information. The performance marketing team is not responsible for this. They can contribute to the information on that report, but this is always going to come from whoever's client facing. Okay, last but not least, we've talked about the postmortem and impact report. This is just something where this is not a report that we're doing weekly. Everything else is reviewed on a weekly basis. Maybe I'll get to your question in a hot second. This postmortem is when you've done a big launch, when you've done a quarter, it's really important to look at what happened. So in the weekly email, we're telling them, hey, what worked, what didn't. But internally, like, you need to understand and evaluate. I think there's another one that talks details in the postmortem because we have 3 sections. One more? Maybe, no? Let's try another one. No, okay, that's fine. In the postmortem, what you want to do here, like the bigger lens, the longer horizon, these are really good, especially if you're looking at stuff that happens year over year. We're in Mother's Day, graduation, school's getting out, time of the year. Is that going to happen again next year? Of course it is. Did you do a Memorial Day sale this year? Did it work? Great. Are you going to do it again? Makes sense. If we don't document what our learnings are, the calendar can fly quickly, right? We're almost June. Last week, it felt like spring break. The week before, it felt like I was creating my New Year's resolution. Time really does fly. And these postmortems allow us a chance to pause, calibrate, and understand what was working so that when we resurrect this campaign next year, I don't have to call through my brain. You might not have the same people working. You might have a different vendor. You might have a different supplier. We have to document what worked, what didn't. I think it's in the previous slide, Heather, for me. Okay, perfect. So I'll keep it onto this. So we have to document what was working from a qualitative and a quantitative. And then we say, like, what we would have done to make this better. When you're looking at a postmortem, even if it's like a 15-minute call, documenting what worked, what didn't, what we would do next is so strong, so that in a year from now, you're cutting back having to listen stuff. You're just essentially giving yourself a cheat sheet for you to be even better next year. And what's really good is when you do that postmortem and you find out that it failed, you can do something called an autopsy. So then you start understanding what caused this campaign to die, so you don't repeat it. And when it works, you essentially say, great, how do we build this into a formula so that we can repeat this again? Oh, well, we sent an email that went out 15 minutes before we went live. That worked really well. Let's make sure now this becomes part of our process. This is formulaic. A postmortem is so often neglected, but it gives you the standing point for you to improve upon. Okay, I'm going to jump into the next one. Heather, you can jump to whatever you want for the next slide. But Bay had a question of, if a creative that didn't perform well, are you asking, what do we do if we have a creative that didn't perform well? I think, well, I'm going to assume that's your question. What do we do when we have a creative that didn't perform well? Oh, amazing. Pivot and make something different. If your creative performs well all the time, like, okay, who are you? And how have you tricked the algorithm to just always love everything you do? Creative that doesn't perform well, specifically in Meta will choke it of impressions. If it's thinking that this creative isn't going to work, it's going to either turn off the ad itself, or it's going to deprive it of impressions and essentially starve that creative to death. So Andromeda and Gem, and even like the Odex layout within the Meta ecosystem, there are systems and balances in place for if they think that a creative is not resonating with your intended audience, then Meta's going to be like, okay, well, I can't show this anymore. Kudos to John Moran, who explained this really well. So I want to see if I can replicate how he had said it. Andromeda is the ads retrieval engine, right? We know that. That's the billions of dollars investment behind Meta. The Gem update is on the creative. Adam Mosseri is CEO of Instagram. If you don't follow him, follow him. He's amazing. And he does a lot of really good Q&As. In the Gem update, Adam Mosseri was always like, I don't care if your creative is an ad or an organic post. What I do care about is quality content for the end user. And he's often said, like, if you want an organic post to work for your bottom line, it needs to function like an ad. So have a call to action, have a reason for someone to do something next. If your ad wants to work in the Gem update, it needs to function as if it's organic. stand out by fitting in. It can't feel spammy. At the end of the day, whether it's a paid ad or an organic post, the gem update says, is this content quality or not? So John Moran, when he was explaining it, made me think. He had said, like, Andromeda is going to tell you whether your offer and campaign are driving the performance metrics that you need off of Facebook. The gem update is going to confirm whether or not your creative is functioning on Facebook. So those two combine is why that data studio is so important, because social media, first part is social, but the second part is media. If your media is not working and you have a creative that doesn't work, okay, great. Let's make a new creative. Meta will deprive it of impressions. And then, okay, we tested it. It didn't work. What are we going to test next? What learnings can we take of why didn't it work? Was the hook rate bad? Was the see more rate bad? Was it a copy? Most likely, to be honest, it probably didn't have a consumer need it was solving for. If it's not obvious, we have to remember, like, we have to talk to people as if they're in 5th grade in our advertising. Every moment of friction that I have to hesitate to think is a decreasing likelihood of conversion. So when we look at the ads, sometimes we get an ad and we're like, oh, I love it so much, and it doesn't work. Okay, move on. Create a new one. If there's anything you can say, like, hey, I don't know, if maybe it didn't work because you have a girl that's in a room drinking water, that's not working. Okay, let's come up with another new concept. Because if I'm just telling you, oh, I like this can, it's delicious, I chose it because it's aluminum. If I can't address the consumer hierarchy of needs, which we talked about in the last creative diversification, my guess is 9 out of 10 times that's why the ad didn't work. The other reason why it didn't work is either overproduction or it was lo-fi and different things. Like sound is a really important piece. So if you're not having quality of sound, if the creative is not set up for success in the different impressions, like with everything, Bay, it depends. But for the most part, let's talk about the net concept. Let's assume that creative didn't work. Okay, great. We see if there's anything we can identify of why we think it didn't work. And it can just be like, cool, Lauren in your ad didn't work. Okay, no problem. Try with someone else. Or maybe, indoor doesn't work. But like, you don't want to get fixated on those details. It's often like, what is the concept of the ad? And looking at the consumer needs. If there is a clear consumer need, then we can evaluate more details and guess this. Okay, Heather is saying, like, last week's webinar, we talked about this a bit more extensive. You're totally right. So if you're on YouTube, you can click that link. But yeah, in totality, those are the 6 reports that I think really help heads of marketing understand what's going on in your marketing. I don't care if you're managing $100 million a month or $1,000 a month in marketing expenses. If you don't have a performance scorecard that you're manually updating, your team is manually updating each week, your stuff is probably on autopilot. I hope that's not the case, but if I don't at least get the manual update, I can have people walk away from stuff and I don't know that they're actually involved in the account. 2, using a data studio tool, you can pull in that information. You want to understand, especially with the gem update, how is your creative performing and functioning? What we have here is that per creative 0, 3, 6, and 15, you have A-Z testing, not A-B testing. Remember that 25% difference, or we call it AF at least. What's really important is that creative studio is like, these are the 4 numbers that we look at with social media. Design for second 0, so I can capture your attention. First 3 seconds, if I can't hook you for the first 3 seconds, I've wasted the impression. The 6-second piece is what TikTok has said exclusively. Like, if you can at least hold people's attention for 6 seconds when you're looking at your videos, do you have an average watch rate of at least 6 seconds? TikTok says if you have a 90% watch rate of 6 seconds, it's guaranteed to go viral. If you get 90% of people who started continue through 6 seconds, that video is almost always going to go viral. So I apply the same to Meta. And then 15 seconds, that's a through play. That's, can I get someone to watch 3 seconds and then hold them to 15 seconds? If you have a video that's less than 15 seconds, then your through play is through the completion, right? Change log, each team, each department, when they're doing changes, make sure it's dated. Otherwise, we don't know what's going on. And sometimes we can't go back to and figure out and give causality to what worked or what didn't. The daily pulse, you said it at once, automation, 0 alert. Like, I just want to know every single day, did it work or did it not? Like, how many sales do I have? How many leads do I have? This 4-minute CEO email, the snapshot of the week, you have your client success manager, the client facing individual sending out a summary of everything, because the CEO is not looking at any of this stuff. They just want to know, quick, I only have this weekly pulse check for me to see what's going on. And then this postmortem. This is something that you do by exception every time there's a launch or every time you have a quarterly recap so that you can understand what's going on. These are the 6 reports that we use at Mongoose Media. And these are the 6 reports that I would love to recommend that you install in whatever you're working on. If you're, like I said, if you're marketing rehab, we meet every Monday, except for next week because it's a federal holiday. I'm happy to just like verbatim give you what we have and help you create the reports that you want. I think that's everything. Like we have another webinar next week. It's the email revenue maximizer. That one is hyper specific on how do you generate the most amount of money from people that have joined your email list. That one is actually probably the first webinars we've done. So we've been talking about that a lot, and we've been evolving it even more lately. So the last webinar, I think, shifted a huge paradigm. And what I love about that is it's going to queue up for the pipeline webinar that'll be coming up soon. So I know that we are a bit over the hour. I appreciate everyone who's been able to stay on. Next week is a special Saturday one. Yeah, you have special Saturday. Same time, I'm going to be in Romania. So because I'm just in Romania, we had to switch time. So super excited to share that email with you. Let's see, maybe Saturdays are a better time for everyone that was able to join live. Thank you so much for everyone that is watching the replay or connecting. Always welcome to feedback. These are ideally supposed to be informal, but informative. I've got my team. These are training sessions for them so that we can stay on top of and be in the same consistent. And our goal is that you're able to see how we walk our talk. So thanks, everyone. Appreciate everything out. As always, I finger dance as we go out. I think that's the end. Do we have an end screen? No, was this one updated? Yeah, okay, I'll put that to the end screen.